So, what can we do about making our release more sustainable? I'm going to look at Nigel here. Obviously, you run a label. What can you do?
So we constantly kind of look at what we do and try and appraise every aspect of it. And initially it felt like we couldn't do that much because it was PVC. You know, PVC is a toxic material. It is recyclable, but we looked at every aspect. So the PVC, we could do eco mix. So that's the bits that are left over that you saw in the film can be reground and used into LPs. So that's one thing we've done. Something really small like shrink wrap. It's obviously you buy the LP and it just gets thrown away. Well, as an interim measure, what we've done with the help of Key is we use overbags. So it is actually a little bit more plastic, but it's not a single-use plastic and it's there for good. And it's also protecting the record, so you're going to get less kind of damage done. So just a small thing. Then back in 2009, Julie's Bicycle did a project looking at the CD and the CD case. And at that point, we were making a lot more than we are now. And it showed that 95% less emissions with card and soft pack than it was with the dual case. So instantly we were like, well, it's going to cost us a bit more money, but let's just do everything in card. Let's do recycled card and let's just make them nice. So we did like book packs. We did, lots of different kinds. And we've been doing that. And I know Ninja Tune did the same thing. There was a few labels that decided, well, let's just do it. And I'm a bit surprised that people are still doing dual case now because it is made of polystyrene and it's not recyclable and it's a pretty crap product personally, I think. So we changed that. We changed all of the card, all the paper that we use for like mail order for D2C. We use paper rather than plastic tape when we're doing mail outs. All these little things, they all seem like tiny little things, but they really build up over time. And I also think you're sending a message and it's also a talking point and it's kind of like you're trying to be the change you want to see, all those kind of aspects. And I think we're certainly not perfect, and I certainly don't want to stand here and say like we're the ones you look to what we're doing, because we're not. We're in transition and we're kind of trying to just do what we can as we go along.
Could you talk about the project with Republic of Music and the Near Mint and just, again, something small?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that is a good example. So from the AIM Climate Group, we got together with the distributors and we were like, we're all labels that want to change. What can we do? And there were distributors who were also equally keen. And a few of us came up with the idea of actually, product is getting destroyed because maybe it's dinked or caught on the corner. What can we change? So the idea was that you can call it near mint, you can call it B stock, and you can just sell it for a little bit. So whereas you might have a package of, say, 10 records that are slightly damaged, that would get sent back, that have got all that chain of being sent back, being recycled or being destroyed, you could just sell them cheaper and pass it on. And it's kind of also educating the fan that it's not a problem. There's a degree of people who want to have it perfect and want to trade, but a lot of people just want to have a record and listen to it. So it's kind of, it's generating that feeling around what you're doing, that it's not a problem and let's just, get on and deal with what we've got.
And basically there was an area within some record shops that had near mint, price slightly reduced, and that there was no negative feedback about it, basically. No. So really it was a success.
Yeah, no, completely, and it's something that
I'm sharing.
It's something that we do, and also I know other labels, and you've got your Bandcamp or your direct consumer, and you do have a few releases that are a bit damaged. You can just put them up as B stock, sell them £5 cheaper, and someone's got a bargain, and you've kept stock flowing. So it's just a small thing, but I think it's positive.
I remember when I was young going into Our Price, and they always had the reduced records that had been hanging up on the walls or whatever, and I bought them because I was a student. I didn't have any money.
Sun bleached.
Just tracking back slightly, shrink wrap. It's something that I think a lot of people really focus in on almost too much. Would you say? It's a very, very small part of the manufacturing process, a very small emissions. Most shrink wrap is actually recyclable, but not curbside recyclable. And talking to distributors, they're really concerned if we stop shrink wrapping records, that because they pass through so many people's hands, they actually get damaged in transit, and then you're more likely, unless you have the Near Mint initiative, but they're more likely to get damaged and therefore end up being destroyed or whatever. And and I know Amazon, they won't take stock that's not shrink wrap, but they will in a PVC bag. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good solution. The other thing that as well that we're finding is pressing on 140 gram, not 180 gram vinyl. It's pretty obvious that it's much better for the environment and much better in transport. Now, transport's a big issue, isn't it? What have you seen being done about sort of shipping, if anything?
Shipping is really difficult because there's so many players in the chain, whether it's the manufacturer or the distributor or yourselves. You know, there's a lot of people who are organising it. I have to say it's got more difficult since Brexit because of all the tariffs, and you have to bring stock back. Say you're making it in Europe, you've got to bring it back into the UK and then ship it back out, which is a nightmare, which is a real problem. And because, as everybody knows, manufacturing times, turnaround times are a complete nightmare at the moment. You're kind of at the whim of what is available at that time. You might have waited 6 or 7 months for your record, and then you've just got to get into shops. So that is something that I think we need systemic change to help. You know, you need more electrified transport. You need more options to actually make that better, and really you need governments to change before you can do that. You know, you've got to be realistic about what you can change, and get on with those bits, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's about being realistic about what you can change, and so what I think is, for me, one of the most powerful things about the Music Climate Pact is that I know that Key have been working with manufacturers and talking to them and having conversations. You'd have independent labels also getting in touch with them, and it's like, is that going to create change? And so what I think is amazing is that we've now got the major music companies and, you know, the independent sector all committed to measuring their carbon footprint and then reducing it. And so, you know, if you're a shipping company or a manufacturer, and then you've got basically your entire market committed to reducing their footprint and committed to making the processes more green, I think that's how we can really accelerate change. So I think that, you know, we've got the framework in place, and it definitely needs more pushing and, you know, and to be driven. But I think that that will make a big difference. And I would hope.
Well, it has made a big difference. I mean, I've been in this industry for too long. No, not long enough. Over 30 years, and the changes that I've seen the factories make is quite astonishing. Thankfully, I mean, you used to go. People really didn't give a shit. And you know, they didn't care where their board came from, where their inks came from, where the varnishes came from. They didn't care about the amount of energy they were using, and things really have shifted. People are much more aware. Some factories offer offsetting, balancing. We've certainly are looking to offer that to our clients. I know ROM have just put in a new scheme of rewilding for their everything that's manufactured. Is that right? So, you know, things are changing. They are getting better. Virtually all factories, the card is FSC. So it's from managed forests. The inks are vegetable inks. So it is getting better. I touched there carbon offsetting, carbon balancing. What do we think?
Nigel has
I've got a lot of
strong
opinions on
and
it.
good, important views. It's a band-aid, but
Yeah, I think it's quite a 90s thing, actually. I think it's what came out of the environmental movement then to kind of show that things were being done when they really weren't. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, because we've definitely done it on things that we couldn't do anything about. So as an option. But when you go to a Shell garage and you see that there's big flags saying drive carbon neutral because they're buying some carbon credits, then it just, you know, can't be anything but greenwashing. And also you've got, there's a massive market now in carbon credit trading. So there's a lot of money that's not even ever reaching the mangrove swamp or whatever is being supposed to be made with the money. And you've got someone like Nigel Farage who is on an out-and-out campaign to attack net zero and say it's too expensive, yet he owns shares in a big carbon credit trading company, which says all you need to know about, you know, where the focus is for that. The other problems with it are there's failure. So you could put money into carbon offsetting, and it could be in a forest, and it could be great, it could be planted somewhere and then left, and nothing happens, and it all dies. So all the carbon goes back into the atmosphere. You could have unscrupulous people who move poor, oppressed people off their land to go and plant, which has happened. You could, you know, there's a lot of unintended consequences. And there's also, you've got to look at the idea of additionality, because would this thing happen if you hadn't put the money in? And if the answer is no, it wouldn't, and you put the money in, then possibly it could be worth doing. But you've got the City of London, who are currently saying that they're carbon neutral because they own Epping Forest. Now, they've owned Epping Forest for about 300 years, so that's not additionality. It's absolute, you know, greenwash. So our take on it is there are certain emissions as a company that we can't do anything about. We don't want to get sidetracked into greenwashing, so we just put money into a local charity. There's a tree charity in Hackney where we're based called Tree Musketeers that have been going for about 20 years. And I know they do a great job, and we go and help them. And we see, you know, I see trees that have been there 20, 25 years from the work they've done. So I know that they'll go and water them and they won't die in a year's time. So, you know, I think that's our approach anyway.
Yeah, I think you do have to research the projects that you're using. And I know, for example, the one that we use, I've actually gone and visited the project. I did have to fly to see it, so I did have to offset my emissions because there was nothing else that I could do.
That's the system.
Yeah, but I did go and see it, and it's a project where they're doing sort of fast-growing and slow-growing trees, and it's revitalised land that was slashed and burnt. And what it's also done is it's putting money back into the farmers that were losing money because they weren't farming on the land anymore. So I do think, like you say, there are some instances where there's nothing else you can do, but if you're sure that you've got it in the right place, and again, sort of going back to Rom, you're using it, you're doing local rewilding projects. So again, you know where they are and you can see what's happening.
If you know, the big thing with me and in my journey in talking about climate is I'm not an expert, so you use experts. And so I'm not an expert in the Impala carbon calculator, and I'm not an expert in where you should be donating your money or where you could be offsetting or as part of your strategy. But organisations or charities like Earth% that can direct some money towards initiatives, you know, use those experts, and maybe you don't have to decide for yourself, because then you think, I'm not an expert, I don't know what to do, and then you don't donate anything. So maybe look at Earth%.
One of the things that we haven't touched on yet is management of stock. Obviously, it takes a long time to get your records pressed at the moment. And what we found as a company is a lot of people are just going nuts and pressing as many as they can, rather than actually thinking, is this what I can sell? And when can I then do a reorder? I'm planning it all in. So what slightly worries me is that when people are giving us these massive, massive orders, is it because you're really going to sell them? Or is it because you're trying to hedge your bets because it's taking such a long time to make? And then, oh my God, has anyone seen the Red Hot Chili Peppers release? 17 varieties of coloured vinyl. 17. So not only is that blocking up all the presses at the pressing plants, but it's sustainably ridiculous, don't we think? So I do think that a lot of conversation has to be had, like you say, with both the majors and the indies, of actually managing your stock properly. So I just put a little, here's some we made earlier, really, of stock that was either done with the sort of eco-vinyl mix. The King Gizzard releases was all done on totally recycled board with the eco-vinyl as well.